The countdown is on. Russian President Vladimir Putin will visit India tomorrow. It's his 10th trip to India, also his first since the Ukraine war. And what a time to visit. There are peace talks, there are tariffs, there are sanctions and threats. But in the middle of it all stand India and Russia, two countries bound by history and trust. President Putin is hoping to start a new phase of this relationship. He talked about it briefly yesterday. Putin says he wants to upgrade ties to a qualitatively new level.
We aim to elevate cooperation with the People's Republic of China and the Republic of India to a qualitatively new level by strengthening its technological component. This is the objective of numerous joint projects in energy, industry, space, agriculture, and other sectors. We will also discuss these topics in detail during the upcoming visit to India with Prime Minister Narendra Modi, including increasing imports of Indian goods to our market.
I know he said India and China, and we'll come to that later. But first, let's focus on the agenda. India has two main items on the wish list. One is for Russia to buy more Indian goods. Our bilateral trade stands at $69 billion, but 92% of that is just Russian exports to India. So this trade is heavily stacked in Moscow's favor. New Delhi is hoping to balance it out. They want Russia to buy more Indian goods. That's the first item. The second is weapons. Reports say talks will cover three crucial platforms: the S-400 defense system, which was used during Operation Sindoor, the S-500 defense system, which has more range, and the Su-57 jets, which are fifth-generation fighters. All these weapons are likely to be discussed. Which brings us to the other side. What does Russia want? Well, their wish list also has two main items. One is to increase energy cooperation. The US has asked India to cut off Russian oil trade. They've also imposed 50% tariffs to force India's hand. But Putin will try to push back. He's hoping that India will deepen energy cooperation. On oil, that's not guaranteed. But on nuclear energy, it is possible. Russia's second wish will be on technology. Moscow is cut off from the Western markets. They cannot buy spare parts or cutting-edge technology from the West, so chances are Putin will turn to India. And that sums up the agenda for tomorrow. But frankly, this goes beyond all of that. Russia occupies a special place in Indian public imagination. People here trust Russia. They see a long-standing partner. They see a reliable military supplier. They see a diplomatic supporter. And they see a friend in an unfriendly world. Which is why Putin's visit is such a big deal. Indians are genuinely excited to host the Russian leader. Having said that, this is not the old India-Russia relationship. A lot has changed. For starters, Russia is not what it used to be. During the Cold War, it was a superpower, the Soviet Union, and a reliable and powerful friend to India. But now, Russia is only the 11th largest economy in the world. Their GDP is almost half of India's. So the power equation has certainly changed. It's not a one-way street anymore. Both countries need each other. Secondly, there's a China factor in this relationship. Russia has a so-called no-limits partnership with China. And it keeps growing. Yesterday, China's foreign minister met his Russian counterpart, and Beijing says they found consensus on major issues.
The two sides conducted comprehensive and in-depth communication on bilateral relations and major issues involving the strategic security interests of both countries, reached new consensus, and strengthened strategic mutual trust.
Again, look at the power equation. The Russia-China trade stands at $245 billion. Around 99% of this trade is settled in local currencies, not dollars, but yuan and rubles. China buys a lot of Russia's sanctioned gas. They also sell crucial technology and spare parts to Moscow. And all of this has raised one question. Is Russia now a junior partner to China? If India and China were to fight, would Russia back India? It's an important question, and the West is also feeding this fire. They're keen to drive a wedge between India and Russia. Let me show you an op-ed that was published on Monday. It was written by envoys from the UK, Germany, and France. And what does it say? It basically gives unconditional support to Ukraine. It also blames Putin for continuing the war. The idea behind this op-ed is clear. These Western ambassadors do not like India's decision to host Putin. They cannot say it in so many words, so they wrote this veiled op-ed instead. Reports say the Indian government is not happy about this. They're calling it unusual and unacceptable. Poland is also stirring the pot. They say the growing Russia-China equation is bad for India. Well, first of all, thanks for the advice. Clearly, the West is deeply concerned about India's welfare. But these equations are not so simple. Yes, China and Russia have a no-limits partnership, but Russia also has concerns about China, especially in Central Asia and the Arctic region. Similarly, India has very warm ties with Western countries, but for Russia, the West is the enemy. Now, so far, New Delhi and Moscow have managed these contradictions. The goal is to double down and expand on these ties. Other countries will always try to derail this special relationship. It's up to India and Russia to shut out the noise and criticism. And at Firstpost, we will bring you a special coverage of President Putin's visit with all the updates, all the meetings and the analysis, of course. So tune in on December 4th and 5th as we track this high-stakes visit.
I rose from the army with medals on my chest. I spoke of freedom from colonial chains, but I tightened my own. I filled prisons with ghosts. Nearly 500,000 people were butchered under my rule, and I trusted only my paranoia. I gave myself grand titles. I claimed to be Africa's strongman. History calls me something else, the dictator. Who am I?